How are you? Good to see you. Yes, we're looking forward to tonight's meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Today's meeting is being held as a virtual meeting due to the declared emergency. This evening's meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 3, additions to the agenda. The agenda has been circulated. Are there any additions or errors? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the agenda as circulated. Councillor McGill, seconded by Councillor Vink. Discussion? In favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations. Jill, the last time I talked to you, there wasn't any, so unless I hear from you, we'll continue on. We're on number 5, Council, the consent agenda. There are items 5A through 5G. I'll read these and I'll glance up at the screen. Any that you wish to address immediately. If it's not too burdensome, we certainly can entertain that for efficiency. And if you think it deserves debate, we can move it to new business. 5A, the May 11th council meeting minutes. 5B, respect in the workplace policy. And 5C, the Southwest Middlesex April building report, $1,675,600 in new construction. And 5D, vouchers from Southwest Middlesex, $635,900. And 5E, County Council update, May 10th. And 5F is from the City of Cambridge resolution regarding free transportation on election days. And the City of Brantford resolution, former Mohawk Institute residential school, an information release. And Council, I respectfully ask that we endorse the Brantford resolution. I'll move that. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Shouldice. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Council, at number 6, we will be going into committee of adjustment to discuss the property variance. I require a motion that the municipality of Southwest Middlesex move into committee of adjustment to consider a minor variance application A04-2022 at 704. Yes, Jill?
Sorry, could we get a motion to accept the rest of the consent agenda?
Oh, yes, we certainly can. Yep, motion to accept the consent agenda and the endorsement of 5G, moved by Doug Bartlett and seconded by, waiting for a hand. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Questions? All in favor? Thank you, Jill, for bringing that to my attention. Right in front of me. Committee of Adjustment, a motion to go into Committee of the Adjustment at 7:04. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Yes, Councillor Cowell, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor McGill. Discussion? All in favor? Yes, we'll call together 7:04. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any member of this committee declaring a pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. The minutes of the April 27th meeting 2022 have been circulated. It is recommended that they are received and approved by the committee. Any errors, additions, failing which I'll entertain a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bartlett, seconder. Councillor Vink, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Members of the public wishing to comment on any application have been encouraged to provide a written submission. And they will certainly will have a chance to participate in the oral submissions as a delegate during the oral submission of delegates Part D of this meeting, if they wish to be heard regarding a property matter. Stephanie, thanks very much. If you could walk us through the purpose of this meeting and your recommendation, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, you should be able to see a map in front of you now. So the purpose and effect of the application for the minor variance is to seek relief from the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw in order to permit the construction of 2 accessory buildings, which are highlighted in red outline on the screen in front of you. That would exceed the cumulative maximum ground floor area for an accessory building, exceed the permitted accessory building lot coverage, as well as exceed the maximum height requirements for accessory buildings in the rural residential zone. The subject lands have an area of approximately 2.096 acres and contain a single detached dwelling and 5 accessory buildings. 3 of the accessory buildings are proposed to be demolished. I'm just going to switch my screen here. The applicant did provide some more detailed concept plans as part of the application submission that I will share. So on the screen in front of you, you will see the outline of the existing buildings on the subject lands. And the applicant has highlighted the 3 buildings to be removed, which have been circled on the screen in front of you. So the applicant has advised that in addition to the 2 proposed buildings that are to remain on the property, being the drive shed and the barn on the screen in front of you, they wish to construct 2 additional accessory buildings of about 2,400 square feet and 5,760 square feet, which is shown on the next drawing, which I will scroll to. The new buildings are shown on this side to the left and to the right of the screen. And both buildings are proposed to be located in the rear yard of the subject lands and are proposed to be used for personal storage, as well as an antique tractor collection. Staff have evaluated the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance and are of the opinion that the requested variance to permit the construction of 2 accessory buildings that will result in a cumulative ground floor area that exceeds the maximum permitted ground floor area by 1,020 square meters is not considered to be minor in nature, as it greatly exceeds what is considered to be an appropriate size for a residential accessory buildings to be used for residential and personal storage purposes. Staff note that there's not a large concern with the proposed height variance of 5.8 meters for the 1 accessory building, again on the right-hand side, about 2,400 square feet, as it will not exceed the height of the residential dwelling. However, are not in a position to support the overall structure, as it will result in a residentially zoned property that is dominated by storage buildings. Staff do have concerns in regards to the proposed height of 8.5 meters for the building on the left-hand side of almost 6,000 square feet, as it would be equivalent in height to the existing dwelling. but nearly three times larger in ground floor area than the single detached dwelling. Whereas this is a residentially zoned property, so the dwelling should really maintain be the predominant use visually on the property. The maximum permitted lot coverage in the rural residential zone for all buildings and structures, so both accessory buildings and the main dwelling, is 30%, and the maximum permitted lot coverage for accessory buildings is 10%. The applicant has requested to permit a lot coverage of approximately 14.6% for accessory buildings, which would account for nearly half of the total permitted lot coverage for all buildings and structures. And in comparison, the existing dwelling makes up about 2.3% lot coverage, which would make the accessory buildings the predominant structures on the property rather than the residence. The result of permitting the requested variances would alter the primary use of the residentially zoned land, which is not considered to be minor in nature. Although the subject lands are located in the agricultural area, the property is 2 acres in size and it is zoned rural residentially within the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw. And while large accessory buildings like this are common in the agricultural area, they are located on larger lot sizes that are zoned agricultural and generally used for agricultural purposes. And in that instance, the dwelling is subordinate in size and considered to be an accessory use, whereas this is still a residentially zoned parcel and it's used for residential purposes. It's also noted that lands zoned rural residential are generally larger residential lots than what we see within our settlement area boundaries. Which is why that there is permission for a larger cumulative accessory building ground floor area in the rural residential zone than what would be permitted within our settlement area boundaries. So the subject lands are not used for agricultural purposes, and staff also recognize that it is different than a character of a residential lot found within the settlement area boundaries. As such, the 200 square meters is considered to be an appropriate size for accessory buildings, which is right from the intent of the zoning bylaw. The staff are of the opinion that the proposed variance does not maintain the general intent of the official plan, as accessory buildings are supposed to be subordinate in comparison to the main use, which the variance would not result in. Staff also note that by allowing buildings of this size, future owners of this property may make use of the buildings for things that are not listed permitted uses within the zoning bylaw, such as for business purposes, which may have bylaw enforcement implications in the future. Notice of the application has been circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The county engineer has no comments. The Southwest Middlesex Drainage Superintendent noted that municipal drains are not anticipated to be impacted by the proposal. St. Clair Region Conservation Authority has reviewed the subject property and has no concerns with the proposed application. And as part of the application submission, the applicant has provided 2 letters of support from neighbors, as well as a petition of support containing 6 signatures from neighbors, which has been included on the council agenda. And at the time of writing the subject report, no other public comments have been received to date. So it is recommended that the application be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. I know it's always hard to say no, but thank you for your report. We have a process from 1 to 9, from A to I, and we'll continue on that. At the second juncture of this road is the applicant's remarks. David, are you with us?
Yes.
vocally, but not visually, I don't believe. Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I certainly can, David. Go ahead.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you, council, for considering my application for variance this evening. Yeah, I've spoke to my neighbors and shared with them one of my lifetime dreams of finally erecting a building to house my extensive collection of John Deere equipment and tractors. It's been a passion of mine for those who know me well, and something I've been waiting to do, and I'm in a position that I'm able to do that now. And so that's the goal of the application. I do like to support the community with my collection. I've done a few exhibits and displays at the Eckford Museum. I've recently donated some of my time and equipment from my collection to the learning gardens that are being built over time at the Glencoe District High School. So it's been nice to be able to share my collection with the community and help out with it as well. So being able to house it in a proper facility has been a long time goal of mine, and that's the intent of the purpose of both of these buildings.
Okay, thank you. David, I don't want to cut you off, and I presume you're finished on that. Council, it's our opportunity to give remarks and questions to this to either David or Stephanie, and the chair will await the movement of a hand here. Is there none? Yes, Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, to Stephanie. Just a point of interest, because I've never seen that before on a minor variance. You've requested to deny it. And if we go ahead and pass it, what happens to the appeal procedure? How is that handled?
Stephanie, thank you, Martin. Stephanie, in the event council does pass this, the checks and balances that lie ahead.
Sure,
what
through the mayor to the councillor. Like other planning act applications, there is a 20-day appeal period that follows council's decision, where the applicant or any who had made written or oral submissions has the ability to submit an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal.
Okay, thank you, Martin. And any follow-up, Martin? You're okay there?
Yes, I'm okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Council, continue to ask questions to David or Stephanie. Yes, Mark, please go ahead.
I see no problem with what Dave wants to do. I know it exceeds what the minor variance would normally allow, but it's right at, the neighbors don't have any objections. It's right out in the middle of the country where there's no houses very close at all that might in any way be impacted. So I would move that we allow Dave to erect these two buildings. Okay,
can I ask you to just hold that motion for a minute? There is a process, Councillor McGill, that we have to go through, but we certainly will come back to you and ask you to reiterate that motion at appropriate time. Does that meet your approval? Okay, thanks very much.
Sure.
Any further questions? Okay, continuing on. Jill, have there been any oral or written submissions? There have been none, as was indicated.
Oh, yeah, there have been written
Okay.
submissions.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, if you'd like to read those, please, for us.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So from the Monroe Century Farms to Southwest Middlesex, this is a letter of support for the building projects that Mr. Dave McEachran is proposing at 4087 Old Drive, Glencoe. I have reviewed the proposal and understand that Mr. McEachran will be applying for a bylaw variance on the size, height, and lot coverage. I understand the proposal meets all other bylaw regulations. I'm the owner of the adjacent lands and see no issue with the proposal and would be in support of you granting the variances that are applied for. And that's signed Doug Monroe. And secondly is attention Southwest Middlesex. This letter is in response towards the building request by Dave McEachran. He has approached myself as an adjoining property owner with regards to the municipality's concerns. It is my feeling that we respect the voting decision of the municipality with regards to this matter. If the municipality finds the request to be valid and the best interest for the lot, I have no concerns. Hopefully, if this request is passed, you would show equal flexibility to other challenging lot-related matters. My hope is Southwest Middlesex will be open to new developments to help our area grow and stay sustainable for future generations. Yours truly, Paul McTavish.
Okay, thank you, Jill, very much. Committee, at this point in time, there'll be a 5-minute recess to allow those that like to make verbal comment on this. So it is 7:21. If we could reconvene at 7:26. Jill, I'll hand it over to you to put up our out for lunch sign, and we'll be back at 7:26.
Was that you at Tim Hortons the other day, Stephanie?
I was wondering if you recognized me.
I probably about 5 or 6 times, and then it dawned on me, I know who that is.
You were eating nutritionally correct, were you, Steph?
We were in the
Oh, the drive-through?
yeah, the drive-through.
Yeah, I got an addiction to their Boston creams. Anyway, and we'll wait for Jill to return here and we'll get back to work. There she is. Our fearless CAO. Okay, Jill, I think we can go. Have there been any oral submissions from other participants?
No one is registered.
Okay, thank you very much. David, I know you're with us vocally there, so you have the opportunity to speak again. And
Yes.
we'd certainly be delighted to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to take any extra time. You guys have a very full agenda tonight, so just thank you again for the opportunity to apply for the variance.
Okay, thank you. Committee, we're at the point where a decision is to be made. Mark, I'll fall back on you. You endeavored to make a motion there. You still will come forward with that, I presume?
Yes, I will,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Scholdice has seconded that. Okay, discussion. Committee members? Any discussion you wish to direct to Stephanie, the chair, or David? I think I'd just like to make one comment. I think there is value in preserving agricultural history. And that hasn't been mentioned. I think if I was in a position where I had to defend this at the county level, that would be the argument that I would make. This is a unique and valuable collection, and there's really no other way to maintain the value of that collection than to have it housed. And that collection's mandate is to illustrate and show agricultural history. And I think the purpose of this application is certainly to house that part of our rural history. So I think that's worth mentioning. And I think if I had to defend a decision from council, if it was in that way, that would be the defense that I would make on a county approach. We have a mover and a seconder. Last call for questions. Seeing none, the chair will call it. All in favor of that the application be granted, please raise your hand. Motion is carried unanimously. Stephanie, thank you very, very much for your work. I know that you are mandated to do that, and we hope that there is some autonomy and our viewpoints in Southwest Middlesex, and we'll await the next 20 days and see what happens.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. You be safe. Public meetings, Jill, I don't have any. I've got 0 beside here. And we are into staff reports. And the fire report is first. Is Colin with us this evening? Or will you be giving this report, Jill?
Not this evening.
Okay, yeah. Jill, if you could work us through the options.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the request from council was to investigate some options related to fire service and protection services in the vicinity that's currently served through our agreement with Brook Alvinston. So I've noted what are the common options, but have made the recommendation that since we're already engaged with the emergency management group to do both a fire master plan and a community risk assessment, that would be a really good opportunity to utilize their expertise to come back with a recommendation not just for the Brook Alvinston, but all our areas where there may be other options for us to consider. So that's my recommendation here tonight, that they be noted that they be the ones to come back with a recommendation to council, and council can consider that through the two different processes or two different documents that they will receive from these consultants.
Okay, thank you, Jill. And as I understand it, council has already voted for an option to this to be presented towards them, but this is more of an outreach, and perhaps will give a more wholesome opinions, and we'll certainly open it up to questions through the chair, direct to the chair, through to Jill. Any questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew. So I have two questions. My first question is, who provides the fire inspections for that triangle area in Southwest Middlesex?
Through you,
Jill?
Mayor Mayhew.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Jill, please.
The fire inspector for Southwest Middlesex is still the providing that service to that area within the municipality. It is not the Brook Alvinston Fire Department.
Okay. And my second question, Mayor Mayhew, if I could continue.
Yes, please go ahead.
Jill, does Brook Alvinston attend motor vehicle accidents in that triangle for us as well?
Through you, Mayor, yes, they would. They would respond to motor vehicle collisions and provide that response.
Okay, so the second part of that question then, Jill, since it's a yes, is do they collect for Southwest Middlesex the fee that's attached by our bylaw that says if the motor vehicle isn't registered to a resident of Southwest Middlesex, the fee must be paid? And if so, if they do collect that or we collect that, I'd like to know, because if they collect it, does it come back to us?
Yes, go ahead, Jill.
So through you, Mayor, I would maybe suggest Councillor Vink could bring that up at his next meeting. He's got a meeting with that local board or committee coming up in May. So perhaps he could ask that, but if I can also reach out to the administrator there as well to see whether or not they've ever charged. I'm not aware of receiving any of the fees associated with it that we have from Brook Alvinston.
If we knew about it, though, we could certainly do the collecting as well, but we'd have to be notified of the motor vehicle accident. Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
Other
Trusting that
councillors?
Councillor Vink can get that information for us.
Other councillors have the turn now. Yes, Martin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Yeah, I just had a comment on it. I've been on the board for quite a while. Enjoyed the camaraderie with Brook Alvinston. I think they've done a good job. I know we've received emails from people from that area that are happy with the Brook Alvinston Fire Department, especially since they are located so closely to the Alvinston Fire Hall. It's less than 3 miles to the border of Southwest Middlesex. And any reorganization, I would like to see it left the way it is right now.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Vink. Martin, I too share your opinion of that we certainly don't want to lose what we have. And I think it's extremely important that we all realize that there are 2 railway tracks between the Southwest Middlesex Fire Hall and the Wardsville Fire Hall, between the area of study and our stations. So it is important that we have a relationship with Brook Alvinston on that. Now, that being said, we don't want to lose what we have, but I firmly believe that rather than the status quo, by going to the Emergency Management Committee, which Jill is a part of, We will have a wholesome discussion. The timing is excellent because we can bring this into our fire master plan. And there may be other ideas and opinions that enhance our fire protection for that area. We all realize too that there's a segment of Campbell Park, trailer park in that area as well. And we certainly, I don't think it is anyone's wish to diminish what we have. I think that we want to make sure that we've got adequate and professional response times. And I add that to your concerns in addressing those. Any other questions that you'd like to pose to Jill through the chair? Yes, Councillor Scholdice, followed by Councillor Cal.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just wondering if we will be holding public meetings before a decision is made on this with those residents.
I'm going to pass that over to Jill because it may possibly involve the fire master plan. I'm not sure, Mike, but we'll see if we can get you an answer on that. I know it'll be very wholesomely discussed, but Jill, can you accommodate Councillor Scholdice there?
Through the mayor, just clarify, are you looking for public consultation on all areas where we currently have joint services provided, or just
if we're changing with the Brook Elvinston Fire Agreement? I think that we should have a meeting with those residents. I know that they're very opposed to any change in this service, and I think that we really have to get input from them before we decide on anything.
That I don't think we're mandated to get public input, but it certainly will come up in discussions if the ECG have this. I have no doubt that, and as a member, we would certainly get the opinions of Alveston through Brook Alveston Council. They speak on behalf of their constituents, of course. Jill, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Now that I better understand your question, Councillor Scholdice, I think all of council and staff have had the opportunity to meet with the consultants, the emergency management group, that's their name. And they are willing and able to take all kinds of comments and feedback. So I don't know if everybody has had that opportunity yet to actually meet with them, but I think we reached out and tried to ensure that everybody had that. So it's certainly worthwhile sharing that information that you have heard from residents so that they can bring back the best kind of options available to council for its consideration, and they will put forward a draft plan that is public with options, and council can choose to adopt or change them as they will. So all that's being recommended here tonight is that they be the ones to develop those options to present them to council.
Okay, thank you. And again, the ultimate decision will lie with council. But we all have interest in this, but to have those opinions come from a professional level, I think would be valuable. Deputy Mayor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Whether council asks for this report or not, we're doing a master plan for fire services, and the agreement between Stratford Caradoc and Southwest Middlesex and the arrangement that we have with Brook Elvinston would be looked at anyway. Am I correct in saying that? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Just to be clear.
Okay. Council, any further questions? One more call. The recommendation is before you that the emergency management group is developing a master fire plan for Southwest Middlesex, as well as
Mayor Mayhew, I'll move the recommendation, Mayor Mayhew.
It's moved and seconded. Who's seconding that? Councillor Bartlett. Discussion? Any clarification from council on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Yes, I'm sorry. There was a hand. Hold your vote. Councillor Vink, you needed some clarification?
Yes, please, Mayor Mayhew. We're only voting that the fire services emergency group is going to look into this. Is that
Yes.
correct?
And provide options back to council. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll call the vote now, council. All in favor of the recommendation, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Thank you, council. And Jill, 8B, we've heard the announcement from Mr. McNaughton about the right to disconnect policy, and can you walk us through this?
I'd be happy to. So council, this is a requirement to adopt a policy as we meet the threshold for a number of employees. And you're correct, as Minister McNaughton, as the Minister of Labor, that had introduced these changes to the ESA. And you know, every organization that is required to come up with this kind of a policy has to take a look at their own context. Municipalities are somewhat unique in some respects in that they do provide 24-hour a day, 7 days a week for emergency type service for health and public safety. So as you know, we contract with the OPP to provide policing service. We have a volunteer fire department that responds to emergency situations within their bailiwick. We have fire or water and wastewater that we contract with Aqua, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation. As well, we have roads, and that is our staff. Each of those systems is set up to deal with emergencies. So that's somewhat needs to be reflected in the fact that we do have to stay connected for certain services, but those are dealt with specifically through arrangements so that there is coverage in those events. For remaining types of situations, there is just a need for people to be able to disconnect as well. So some of those are a little less defined than in situations where it's emergency services responding. So this kind of a policy helps us to better define that and really emphasize the need that people do need time to disconnect, to get rejuvenated and come back to the workplace feeling reinvigorated. I would like to also note that this is one of those situations where it's really extremely helpful to work with a network within Middlesex County, because the municipality of Middlesex Center was one of the first out of the gate to share their draft policy with our group. And while this is not the exact same as theirs, it does closely mirror what it is that they put forward. And I just wanted to thank the CAO from Middlesex Center in sharing that. And I think that's a wonderful thing that we do working together. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And the policy you have before you tonight has been drafted, shared with senior management team for review. We've discussed this was a requirement early on, and senior management team supports it as well. So I'm asking that council approve the policy as presented. Thanks.
Thank you very much, council. I'm sure we all realize the joys of having a smartphone and the burden of having a smartphone in our pocket or our purse, and it never seems to be off. Any questions that you would like to direct through the chair to Jill? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I don't have a question, actually. I understand the county did support this maybe last month, and I support it, and I'll move it, Mayor Mayhew.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for that motion. I'll call it again. A seconded for that motion. Councillor Choi, thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, the chair will call the question. All in favor? Please raise your hand. Carried. And we'll see where we are. Council, 8C building. The prior report was given in the consent agenda. Finance, I don't believe there is anything. Greg, how are you tonight? I see you're on the docket for 4 reports here this evening. So I'll let you introduce the candidate day.
All right, and thank you. Can you hear me okay, Mary
I
Ellen?
certainly can. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. And there's 5 reports.
Oh, 5, eh? Huh?
First one I will start off with is the Canada Day report. One of the things that was sort of an item that was pursuant to the last Canada Day committee meeting was an issue of insurance for the committee members, volunteers associated with the Canada Day event, and the agreement between the Ag Society and the municipality with regards to use of the property over at the agricultural site itself. So the current Canada Day committee is comprised of a whole slew of volunteers from the community that are together to put together a Canada Day event for the residents in Southwest Middlesex. This particular committee, the way it's set up is there are insurance issues associated with the committee, whether the volunteers would be covered, etc. So establishing the current members of the committee, and if this committee this recommendation was approved tonight to make this a committee of council, the insurance coverage for decision makers and volunteers who sit on the committee would then be covered. Many volunteers associated with the fireworks event, whether it would be, the local Cub Scouts or whoever that we're helping out with the event, would be covered as regular volunteers. If the council approves the recommendation moving forward, then that would bring our agreement with the Ag Society into play, which then would be our insurance coverage would apply because it would be considered municipal property through that local legal operating agreement that we have with the Ag Society itself. So the municipality's liability insurance policy provides coverage for approved committees of council. For committees to qualify as an insured under the municipal liability policy, it's not enough for council to pass a resolution. In a claim, the insurers will assess whether the group in question was indeed a bona fide committee of council. So there are checks in the system that would make this a committee of council and make sure that insurance applies. And those particular checks, a committee of council is one that is formed in good faith. A simple check to determine this is to meet the following criteria. Council passes a resolution stating that a group of individuals will be acting as a committee of council. The committee is accountable to council for all their actions and activities, and all finances are directed by council for their actions and activities, which includes the approval of a budget. Typically, 1 or 2 council members are appointed and sit on this particular committee. Where the above conditions apply, the municipal liability insurance protection for these committees is automatic and no endorsement to the policy is required. This would include protection for all members, including the team responsible for the fireworks portion of the Canada Day activities. Vendors or outside organizations that are not volunteers would still have to supply liability insurance with the municipality as an additional insured named in that particular policy. So I have presented, and Kristen was good enough to provide me with a budget, revenue and expense budget with a break-even scenario. And this is this particular resolution that I have in front of you tonight. The council approves the current Canada Day committee as a committee of council, and the council approves the operating budget as provided. And further, the council recognizes the public members of the committee as volunteers, including Mr. Dave Musket, the pyrotechnician responsible for the fireworks program. So one of the things I said I would do at the last Canada Day committee was try to resolve the issue of insurance for all the volunteers associated with this group. This resolution will do that in the interim. And certainly council will deal with this committee moving forward in the future as far as terms of reference and how this committee is made up moving forward. But if council passes this resolution tonight, then this will solve a lot of issues associated with the Canada Day committee. So respectfully, Mary Ellen, this is my report for the Canada Day committee, and I'm available for questions.
Good, thank you. And we're certainly indebted to you for that. Greg, there was some concern at the last meeting regarding insurance, and this is certainly is a recommendation that's worthy of consideration. Council, any questions you'd like to address to Greg through the chair? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Bartlett.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Greg. Just a minor thing, but the community donations, it looks like that's the number that was going to balance the budget. Is that number in line with previous years? I know it's been a couple of years now, but I just want to make sure it was in line.
And we may defer that to Kristen. She provided Greg those
Kristen.
numbers. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it is in line with previous years.
It is. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And of course, as you know, that committee, the members of that committee do represent quadrants of our society. The Lions Club have members on there. The business community have members on there. There's certainly council members on there. And they all, and of course, Mr. Muscat has done the pyrotechnics for a number of years. And he is licensed. He recently renewed a 5-year license for that service that he provides. Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Cowell, I see your hand there.
I'd like to move the recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Cowell. A seconder for that, please. Is there a seconder? Councillor McGill? Are we questioned out? Any more questions? All in favor of the recommendation, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. Thank you, Greg, very much for looking after that.
Okay, I believe the next one up is the mandatory connections, sanitary connections at Butte and Montrose.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I certainly take council through this report as well. Then through you, Mary Ellen, to council. I'll take you to the background section of the report and further to the resolution of council. The council directs staff to meet with the landowners on Butte and Montrose streets to discuss mandatory connections to their properties for the sanitary system and report the results back to council for further direction. In the analysis, to certainly point out the legislative requirements with regards to mandatory connections. And at the far end of that section, certainly I do now provide feedback from the individual property owners in Butte and Montrose. There were 5 properties involved. And 3686, I think council was sent a letter today with regards to the mandatory connection. So all 5 have responded. All 5 landowners are not interested at this particular point in the mandatory connection to the sanitary system. And that there are many reasons involved with that. Can be anything from health issues to financing in the future and that type of thing. And mostly because, you know, all these particular property owners, their systems are working fine the way they are. I will take you to the recommendations, the recommendation section of the report, and just let council know that, you know, I'm sort of obligated to make this recommendation because it's difficult for me to make a recommendation that would be inconsistent with any legislative requirements or, you know, official plans that have been adopted by council, etc. And I am recommending that council direct staff to proceed with the mandatory connections to the sanitary system for each of these properties, and that all affected landowners be contacted and advised of the decision, and that finance department provide payment options to landowners to cover connection costs for the works for each property. And again, I make that recommendation based on council's approved legislation, approved official plan and zoning bylaws, etc. And at the same time, understand that this is a decision of council. And, you know, my job in this particular report was to bring the feedback from the landowners to council. Hopefully I've done that tonight. So I'm certainly available for questions.
Okay. Thank you, Greg, very much. Yes, Councillor Cowell. Go ahead.
I'd like to move that we receive and file this report.
Okay. Is there a second for that? And then we'll have discussion. Yes, Councillor Vink, you'll second that? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We'll open this up for discussion. We certainly have that option as was moved and seconded, council. Kristen, if I could lend your ear for a while on that. Kristen, we fully realize that though it may be exceptionally inconvenient at this time for these homeowners to connect, we do realize that in the future, in down the road, that it is inevitable that these properties will have to connect to our system. Have you ever seen something on title that if in the event a property was sold, that the connection would have to be completed by the new property owner? So then it would be part of the negotiated agreement of purchase and sale of the house. There would be adjustments at the legal level to accommodate that. Have you ever seen anything like that? Can that be put on title?
I might defer to Jill as far as the legalities of that are concerned and what we'd have to go through to make that legal. But I have seen things like that that would flag to a lawyer at the time of sale.
Yeah, and certainly we first, as capable as you and Jill are, we fully realize you're not lawyers. So that is a question that perhaps could be done in the future when we remove this from the file. Jill, would you want to take a crack at it, or?
Yeah, sure. There's sort of two different things that are under discussion. So the recommendation associated with this report from staff is merely about paying for the frontage for connection in the future. There are municipalities that certainly have required connections at a future point in time, and you can do that in a variety of ways. But this is not about connecting to the system. It's about paying for the infrastructure so that there is an ability to connect to that system. For those types of reasons, Mayor, that you just highlighted, at some point in time, somebody's sanitary system may need to be replaced. That is likely as expensive or more expensive as the types of costs that we've received about having the ability to connect to this system if it were to be put in now while the other construction is going on. Additionally, it prevents having lots developed, and there are some vacant lots that are there. It prevents them from being developed because it does not match our direction to have full municipal services where they're available. And while they just aren't available on this street based on how servicing was provided in the past, but will be available now, and it would be a requirement to connect to them for future development, which is part of the reason why you'll remember those two lots that are at the end of Butte and Montrose were allowed to proceed because we had a temporary use agreement for a holding tank, so that once the sanitary system was installed through the development that is proposed nearby, that the property owner would be required to connect to that.
Okay, thank you, Jill. The motion made by Councillor Cowell and seconded by Councillor Vink indicates that the report be received and filed. And no doubt it may not be us, but will be a future council that'll be removing that from the file at some point. Mark, Councillor McGill, have you got a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. What are the financial implications of not making these people hook up? Because I think the sewer line is going to go down the street anyway. Whether they, is it not? Whether Greg's shaking his head no.
Yeah, I can certainly jump in here if you wish. Now, there really isn't, there's no lateral lines from down Butte or Montrose right now. that's what would be done if this project went forward, was those particular lateral lines would come from Main Street and run down Butte and Montrose. But also, to be clear, I mean, this would be the installation of a curb or a sanitary cleanout at the property line for each of these 5 properties. It would still be the cost of the individual landowners then to make those connections to the sanitary system itself. So, and in some cases with these properties, you do have rear yard septic systems and beds. So, you know, that cost can change drastically for, you know, one property versus the next. So this would be a situation where we would run lines down Butte and Montrose. They're not going to be connected to the existing development situation that we have there. So simply because that particular effluent is going out through Industrial Road substation. So
yeah,
that's
Thank
what it
you,
would
Greg.
be, the installation of those 2 lines.
Yeah, and Councillor McGill, a follow-up question. Jill, I'm not ignoring you there. We'll get to you after Mark.
Okay,
Go ahead.
if that's okay with Jill, I guess I'll ask my second question. So is Butte and Montrose going to be resurfaced at this time?
Yeah, and through you, Mary Ellen, to Councillor McGill, Butte Street will be brought up to the urban standard. So, you know, obviously, if we were going to put in sanitary lines there, we'd want to do that before that road was brought up to that standard. So,
Okay. Any further questions? Kristen, in terms of you were looking at amortizing this debt to these homeowners over a period of time. What was it? Was it 15, 20, 25 years? What were you considering?
We could do 20 to 25 years.
20 to 25 years?
Impact is minimal.
And the impact would be minimal. So what could you give me a ballpark figure on approximately what would that cost on a water bill per month?
I don't have that.
You don't have that information, okay?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I think Jill wanted to jump in there too.
Oh,
Ellen.
yeah, I'm sorry, Jill. Yeah, no, I got deflected in thought there. Go ahead, Jill, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say it is the development that that caused us to bring this forward, but the question was pretty much answered. The reason that we would be advising to do this at this point is the fact that there's redevelopment of some of the street, right? So it's the most efficient time to do it when there's construction underway. It's a future point in time is likely to be more expensive to the property owners.
Yes. Okay. I guess my concern is the property, you know, we were unable to get an approximate price per month, the carrying charge of this, if they agreed to this. We were unable to, at this meeting anyway, come up with an approximate carrying charge per month to the affected property owners. And so it's very difficult for them to make a decision if they are not aware of that that estimate of carrying cost. And I'm not sure, but what I even hate to proceed if I don't know what that would cost a constituent in our municipality on this. But anyway, that being said, there is a motion on the floor and it has been seconded, so it's the chair's duty to certainly call it when the question period is finished. Are there any more considerations or questions you'd like to make? Okay, the chair will call the question. All in favor that the report be received and filed, please raise your hand. All opposed? Carried. Okay. Greg, number 3 here. The recreation report. I see we have some nominees here. Oh, you're on mute there, Greg.
Okay, I'm back.
That's good. We all do it.
Yeah, and through you, Mayor Allen, to council. The Recreation Committee did not meet quorum on 25th of April due to a lack of committee members, and we did have some committee members resign from the committee. So it was our duty certainly to see whether we could generate some interest in the community to, get public members involved in the Recreation Committee. So the post went out on the website on the 13th of April and was posted to our social media pages. Applications closed on the 27th of April. Interested candidate, or I'm not sure that that's right, and maybe the week after that. But anyways, interested candidates were asked to submit their names, contact information, and letter of interest, which we received 6 particular people that were interested, and we had 5 spots available. The purpose of the committee itself is to assist the municipality in promoting and continuing to develop communities that are appealing places to live, work, and play. This will consist of providing advice on parks, recreation, community-related activities. The Recreation Committee meets quarterly, and their quorum shall consist of 50%. This is extracts from the terms of reference itself, where it deals with the member composition. And where we should sort of be searching for members in the community. So myself, Melissa, Ashley, and Councillor Cowell conducted interviews because we needed to select 5 of the 6 people. And tonight we're recommending the council approves Denise Corneal, Sean Van Bilson, Chris Emery, Hillary Morris, and Eleanor Weedmark as members of the Facilities and Recreation Committee. And at this particular point, I certainly will ask Councillor Cowell if she has any comments with regards to this report.
I'm not sure my internet can sustain my comments. So at this time, unless I'm asked questions, I have no comments. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is my report with regards to that committee, and I'm available for questions.
Okay. Thank you. Council, certainly opening up the floor. Questions? Yes, Mike, through the chair.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I will move that we approve the appointment of these 5 members to the Facilities and Recreation Committee.
Great, thank you. And a seconder? Yeah, Councillor Cowell. Yeah. Continue on with questions, just in case we didn't miss anyone here. Wash hands. Good. The chair will call it. All in favor of the additions to the Recreation Committee? Carried.
Okay, I think I'm on culvert.
Yeah,
I think I'm on culvert replacement. So, and through you, Mary Ellen, to council, as part of the 2022 capital budget, council approved the replacement of 3 large culverts and the addition of guardrails for one of our bridges. And those are identified as culvert 218, 219, 224, and bridge 101. Now, I provided screenshots for the locations of the culvert locations because bridge 101 is out to pricing right now. So, and I'll certainly talk about that a little bit when we look at the analysis part of this report. The work that was this work that we're doing was priority work as identified in our bridge and culvert inspection program, which was completed in 2001. The project was tendered by Spreet. We had 6 submissions received. All prices excluded HST. The financial implications associated with the project, we had $531,000 that was approved for the 3 culverts plus the 1 guardrail repair. The low tender result for the 3 culverts was $433,608. I've added the tax, the engineering, and the subtotal is at $478,339. There's still a surplus to the budget, but we expect that to be consumed by our bridge repair, which is currently out on the market for pricing. The only thing I will also mention is that the work that went into these 3 particular culverts, I have to give kudos to Rob Cole, who helped work with each landowner because these particular culverts at the width that we were dealing with would have required guardrails on every one, and that would have been a major cost to the residents of the municipality. So what we had to do was we entered into arrangements with landowners in these culvert locations where we expanded the width of the road, and that was done to help farm equipment move through these particular areas, as well as to reduce the cost of this particular project. So the numbers are there in front of you, and my recommendation tonight is to approve the tender results for the replacement of the culverts 218, 19, and 224, and that the project be awarded to Vandriel Excavating Inc. at a cost of $33,608.62. That's my recommendation moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Council, any questions to Greg? I see none. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the report as presented. Councillor McGill, seconded by Councillor Bartlett. Last call for questions. Chair will call. All in favor of the recommendation? Okay, carried unanimously.
Okay, if I only had 4 reports, I guess I'm done.
Yeah, no, we got the sticker shock here now. This is the sticker shock report.
All right, thank you. And through you, Mayor Allen, to council. This is the report that I've prepared with regards to the replacement of the train station deck and infrastructure there that we have in place. I want to start off, I don't have to tell everybody sitting around the table today how important the train station is to the history of Southwest Middlesex and to currently what the building does provide to the community and the residents of Southwest Middlesex. I mean, I look at that particular facility, and when I speak with people, it's one of those facilities that people remember when they visit Southwest Middlesex, and certainly the amount of special events and what occurs at the particular facility, and certainly you know, it meets the definition of what was provided in the facility and rec master plan as a hub of activity. I did go back a little bit into this particular history of this particular project because, you know, this particular project was first, you know, that I could find hit the books in 2018 as a $25,000 project. The scope at that particular point was to replace one beam, a structural beam underneath the deck, and to address the issue with the stairs on the front of the building. In 2019, the project disappeared from the capital list. And for my assessment of the actual facility itself and the structure, our own forces, our own facilities and rec staff did replace one structural steel beam with the new support beam underneath. But it was the basic work that was performed was really kind of just a short-term fix. In 2020, the particular project reappears and has a rate of a dollar figure of $25,000. And in 2021 is where my involvement begins in this particular project, and the budget is set at $40,000. So in the fall of 2021, I start this project because, you know, it's been on the books for a number of years and nothing has been really done. I've certainly seen this beam that was replaced there, but also know that, that particular situation needs to be resolved. So I do at that particular point approach a local contractor to have a look at this particular facility and see whether we can get that beam replaced and do this work on the stairs, which was the sort of still the scope of the particular project itself. At that particular point, after sort of the contractor had looked at the particular facility, he advised us that a building permit and engineered drawings would be required. This was confirmed through Mr. Marsman, has been approved or confirmed through Mr. Marsman as well. And at that particular point, I mean, there's no doubt that the rest of the deck is compromised and certainly the structure underneath the deck is not in very good condition itself. So at that particular point, We do engage an engineer to do a review and come up with a report for us on the existing decking, the deck itself, the supporting structure, the foundation of the supporting structure for the deck, the footing itself of the building. We also ask for information with regards to AODA compliance of the deck and access to the deck. And we also have a fair bit of conversation with regards to the infiltration of stormwater, not just in the cavity, but also at the footing of the building. I will just talk a little bit about the stormwater, because if you look at the particular facility right now, you can see that the decking and the gardens are surrounded by a poured concrete wall. And really the deck has just been a cavity for stormwater collection. And I don't think I have to tell everybody, and certainly when we've had this conversation at council before, the condition of the basement of the train station is being very moist, and at times we've had floods of that particular facility. And most of this is coming from the direct infiltration of rainwater and stormwater coming from the roof of the building as well as through the deck itself. So stormwater was extremely important as in the development of this particular investigative report. And as well, what we wanted from them was to provide options for us moving forward. So to see how we could resolve the issues associated with the deck itself. So we did receive that report. There was no doubt, and I've included some of these recommendations from the report and a copy of that report as part of this, as part of my report tonight, that the complete deck need to be replaced. That included the replacement of the deck boarding, the deck itself, the supporting structure, foundation for the supporting structure, footing work, as well as AODA compliance, and a stormwater management or stormwater control plan for the deck itself. That's what we got out of the report. We also did get some estimates associated with the options that were provided. Depending on the options itself, I mean, some were fairly close to the number that was provided in the 2022 capital budget, which was $100,000. And at that particular point, the senior management team made a decision to put the particular project out to tender to see what the market was telling us with regards to this extensive project that we have. The results that I'm presenting tonight are the results of that public process and that public tendering process that we went through with Grain Fick, who was the engineers that prepared not just the engineering for the facility, but also the public tender itself. So the information that we received back from the public tender involved pricing from two different particular companies. Those particular numbers included prices with handrails and prices which I have without handrails, but the price without handrails it would include handrails in the particular areas where we need them to be AODA compliant. And the upper price is a price for handrails right around the whole decking facility itself. What I'm providing tonight is that option for handrails where they're required to be AODA compliant. So we do have those two particular prices that are in front of us. And that's just a little bit about the railings. The railings with handrails are railings where they're required for AODA, and the price with handrails completely right around the facility is the upper prices that we received from both different companies itself. So generally, that's the extent of the report and the history of what we've gone through for this particular project. Since this report was posted, I have received numerous phone calls from residents with regards to the scope of this particular project. And it was a little bit disappointing, to be honest, because there was some posts that did appear that weren't comprehensive posts. And it did sort of, rile some people up with regards to the scope of this particular project. Was disappointing because I think it was very clear, and certainly the treasurer, Kristen, when we had this discussion with regards to this project in the 2022 capital discussions, the scope that she provided for what we're dealing with tonight was provided to everybody. So the scope of the project has been known since the 2000 capital project discussions. It certainly has expanded a little bit based on the stormwater control that's required for the facility. Saying that, that disappointed me a little bit because I had to have these conversations with some of our residents, and when we got to the end of the conversation, they had a little bit of a different idea on the scope of the project. So saying all that, I'm very excited tonight to present this report to council. This is a project that's been on the books for a number of years. When I look at this municipality, the residents deserve to see this building stay for a long, long time. It's a very important building to everybody in this municipality. And tonight I'm excited because I've finally brought this to a point where, council can make a decision moving forward with this building. And, I took this over in 2021, and, it's an important building. Like, if council decided tonight that they didn't want to move forward with this project, then, we would be in a situation that we would have to set up regular evaluations of this particular facility. And I could not control at that particular point whether, the building was open for public use or was not open for public use. So the deck itself is not in very good shape. I think whoever's been there can, it acts like a trampoline in a lot of cases because of the failing of the support structure underneath. So that's my report tonight, Mary Ellen. Hopefully I didn't speak too long, and I'm certainly available for questions.
No, it's certainly, we want to take our time on it, Greg, and thank you very much. Council will certainly open up questions to Greg through the chair. Yes, Mark, please go ahead. Councillor McGill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I just wanted a little more clarification on what all's being done, because I'm looking at these architectural drawings. The first one shows the wood deck. The second one, I guess, is a structural plan. So that's what's underneath the deck, supporting the deck, and it's going to be steel again. Would that be galvanized maybe?
Yes. Through you, Mary Ellen. Yes, everything that we put in there will be galvanized and be will help with the water situation, and certainly the tiling that will be done at the facility at the bottom of the deck, as well as the gathering of water at the footing, will be better dealt with. The other thing is that the proper barriers will be applied to the footing in the walls itself to prevent penetration into the train station. Currently, what's happening is that all that water that's coming in there is just being gathered into a sump pump and then being pumped back out into the storm system itself.
So how is that going to change? Is it going to be
the water will be tiled off before that particular point? So
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, I'm sorry, Jill. Yeah, go ahead.
So the report that is attached, that's the investigation report. Greg, are you able to show the engineer drawing report that will direct how this needs to be constructed? Because that's going to show more detail. So the attachment was the actual investigation, which showed generally this is what's on the site, but there is a more fulsome, which is what people bid on, which I know, sorry if I caught you off guard there, but you can show that maybe will help answer the question, Greg.
I have empathy for you, Greg.
Yeah, I'll try to find that, but so that would be the series of drawings that the engineered drawings, which includes not just I certainly can get that to councilors if they want that, but I'll see if I can find it quickly here. And
can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
That's probably explained in the document that Greg's looking for, that actually shows what people saw when they bid. But to me, it looks like to do this job, there's going to be a lot of damage, or maybe the landscaping is going to have to be totally taken out and then put back in. Is this quote, does it include restoring all that landscaping too, or not?
So it does include removal, and then we will have to work with the contractor to restore back what we've got to restore back. So it's not going to be the complete removal of the whole flower area. There will be certain spots that we have to rehabilitate back based on what they're going to be removing.
And our crews can do some of that, Greg, is that correct? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that will be part of this project.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see if I can find that.
Yeah, and Greg, I'm sorry with you, I'll continue addressing the hands that go up. Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. To Greg or Jill, since it's such a high cost, is there any way that we can delay this and apply for grants?
Jill, that's a crystal ball question, but Jill certainly is familiar with that end of governance. Jill?
Yeah, so we're currently in a situation where there's a provincial election. So if types of infrastructure grant programs and negotiations with the federal government would have to wait until the completion of that. If those are the areas of grant application you're thinking of.
Yeah, I just think too, we just came through success with the recreation grant, and sometimes they do not piggyback them on top of each other too. They spread it around the province and the country. From my knowledge of grants, yeah. And gee, I lost you, Martin, but go ahead, Martin. I see you now. Yep. Martin, you ask your question, Martin, and then we'll get back to Greg here, okay?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm not sure if Greg wants to answer this, but I took a look at the train station. I didn't see the bounce on the deck, but I did notice, I think the train station needs other work as well. Like the paint seemed to be peeling. Can Greg expand on that? Is there going to be other costs on top of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, first we're looking at structural, not cosmetic. And we have talked about that. The Historical Society and other people have noticed that it does require painting, but that is something that is not on our horizon at present. There will always be painting on any wood building. But
through you, Mary Ellen, I do think Councillor Vink makes a good point. I do have 3 or 4 areas, including the Appin Community Center, the pavilion in Appin. The train station needs touch-ups as far as paint goes. So I'm currently trying to sort of bring all those sort of areas together and see whether this is something that can be accomplished, moving forward here. But that, the painting of the facility itself was not included in this particular project. So I did find the drawings. I know that everything is small here, but this is the set of drawings itself, which not just includes the structural, but the footing information, which is here. I just got to check the detail, but it's a full detailed package of drawings, which includes all the stuff that we're doing and direction to the contractors itself. And this was what was used for the tender package to solicit the pricing itself. So that full package is there. It is kind of complicated and it is hard to see the way it in digital form itself.
And yeah, okay, that's good. Any questions to Greg? I've got everyone back on screen. I'll watch your hands there. Yes, Councillor Scholdice, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Once again, the amount we are facing is over double what council was originally agreed to. And once again, staff has invested time, engineering, and consulting to a project, and council is left in the awkward position of having to throw that money away if approval is not granted. I will be voting against this as it is $140,000 over budget, and we've only received 2 quotes. My question is, did this go to the public tender to allow contractors locally to bid on it?
Through you, Mayor Allen, yes, it
Yes.
did. And we certainly had that. This particular tender itself was posted on our website and available to anybody that wanted to participate in this particular process. So.
And Greg, am I wrong saying that 7 tenders went out, but only 2 came back? Is that correct? Yes. Mhm. Yep. Yes, there's 2 questions. Deputy Mayor, I saw your hand first, followed by Martin.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew. Greg, I think we all should remember that you gave the verbal report to council some time ago that you had in fact engaged a well-known local contractor for his expertise. And I'd like to thank them for giving that. And I certainly respect that opinion. I have to believe, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me, that the procurement policy was followed when the tenders went out. Is that correct? Yeah, I'm assuming so. So Greg, when you talk about the stormwater that will be addressed in this price, you're talking about the drainage issues with the building, the deck, and the landscaping, because it's my understanding that if there is drainage there, it wasn't adequate. We've known for some time that there's been a water issue in that basement. I believe some time ago, some of the documents were compromised that were stored down there. And also when the landscaping was put in, it was a local fellow and it was wonderful. I think he donated his labor, and I'm not sure who provided the materials, but it certainly was a beautiful addition to that building. But am I correct in assuming that there wasn't drainage that was accounted for at that time as well, considered at that time as well?
Yeah, and through you, Mayor Allen, to the Deputy Mayor, I know what we have in place there now, which is basically a system where the water is this cavity is just accepting water, and then the water sits at the footing, and at times is pretty deep. And then that water is being brought back into the building itself and then being pumped out into the storm system. So what we have planned is to actually catch that water before it even gets to the footing, put in the proper membranes to protect the building, and tile that water off from the facility itself. So effectively, we're not going to get penetration to the building. It will improve the basement in the facility. It will protect that foundation moving forward. And, it is a big part of any project is the stormwater. And this particular situation where you have all the water running off the building itself and just hitting and staying in the cavity was a concern in the past. And, certainly I think I'm not disrespecting anybody from the past, but our stormwater situation is completely different than it was, when this facility was moved and the deck was put on.
Thank you. A quick follow-up, Deputy Mayor, and I'll get to Councillor Vink.
Thank you very much, Greg, for that. Yes, I agree. The landscaping is beautiful. It's a wonderful addition to that. I would hate for it to not be replaced and put back the way that it is now. And I would assume when it was put in that the person that did the landscaping and obviously the committee that did the deck and restored the building had adequate drainage at the time. But as we know, that was 20 some years ago. So thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you. I will say through you, Mayor Allen, that certainly we will work directly with the Horticultural Society with regards to the work that needs to be completed there, all the user groups, etc. I mean, this won't be, if council agrees to move forward with this will be a difficult job to do, but at the same time, we're going to have to pick some time that doesn't affect the community and hopefully the deck and everything holds up until we can get that done. So, but we won't, we will work with our partners here to get this completed.
And Councillor Vink, followed by Councillor McGill, that stonework was done by A young Mr. Ross, Larry Ross's son, Tony Ross, did that. And those stones weren't precast stones. Every one of those stones were cut. Every one explicitly was cut and fitted. Martin, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just a couple little points. When I looked at the bids, the traditional construction, when with handrails, without handrails, is $70,000 different.
Oh, Martin, I've lost your volume, Martin. I can't hear you. Yeah. So speak into your microphone there if you can. Or
Well, I'm speaking right now.
okay, yep, I can hear you now. Yep, you just cut out on us, Martin.
Okay, I may have been looking on the side, looking at the traditional construction bids. Anyway, I was mentioning traditional construction bid for handrails is $70,000 difference, where the other one's only $22,000. So that's a big difference. And my other point was, could the deck area be reduced, because we don't need handrails on to follow the conformance of AOD. So I wonder if we can't reduce the deck area for the train station and reduce quite a bit of the cost.
Well, I can certainly, through you, Mary Ellen, comment on the pricing. I mean, that's what they provided. So, you know, one company gave a $22,000 relief for without handrails, and the other one was $79,000. But that's what they do in the bidding process. So, as far as reducing the size of the deck, I mean, I think councillors can speak to that.
But both meet accessibility compliance. One, yes, and that and I was thinking too that not just to save money, although that's always a criteria, as Councillor Vink has indicated, but perhaps the visual effect of the station might be better if we just go with the handrails where they're mandatory, okay? So that curb appeal is still there, but the handrails that meet the Accessibility Act of Ontario for disabilities, we are mandated to do that, and the less dollars quoted with just the mandatory handrails as opposed to the optional handrail. Not only is it less money, but there may be some advantages from a visual perspective on that too. The train station would not be caged, so to speak, by handrail, that it would still be open, but the handrails would be where they're required to give someone stability. But in question, just not to shortchange Councillor Vink here, the reduction of the footprint of the deck. I hate to use the word deck because it's really more than that. It's a complete intricate platform around 3/4 of the building. Deck seems too simplistic for the description here, but I don't think there has been any flavor for reduction of size. Unless there's others. Yes, Councillor Scholdice, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just looking for clarification. I'm on page 4 of the report under analysis. It says without handrails is $22,635, and with handrails it's $24,635. And under financial implications, it says low bid with handrails for $222,635.
Yeah,
is that correct?
That is, but I think without handrails, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but there are handrails where they are required by provincial statute, Councillor Scholdice. Okay.
It just says low bid with handrails.
Yeah.
And
and if that's an error on my part, I apologize for that, Councillor Scholdice, but the actual price that I'm providing is a price with handrails only in the compliance areas. The upper price that's not being suggested at this particular point, and the primary reason for that was almost identical to what the mayor had commented on, which was the historic look of the building itself. It was decided that we didn't need handrails all the way around the whole deck itself, including the areas that were compliant. So if I haven't done that or sort of provided clarity on that, hopefully I've done that now.
Okay, great. Okay. Any questions? Any more questions? Yes, Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. You just answered one question for me, but Greg, can you just verify what areas would have handrails?
Yeah, and through you, so the area of the ramp, so that whole ramping system in the back needs to be replaced. So that's going to come with handrails up to a certain point, and certainly the access on the front of the deck will also require handrails.
Yeah, where there's
Okay.
stairs, there'll be handrails. Yeah. Mhm.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Amy, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor May.
Oh,
You, through you to Greg, what would be the lifespan of the new deck?
Well, and through you, Mary Ellen, to Councillor Choi, I think that, you know, the information that we have, you know, would be a minimum of 25 years at this particular point, especially with the, you know, with what we're putting in the structural support area for the decking itself. So the wood covering is a yellow pine, which is very similar to a white cedar. And you don't really do anything to it. You let it weather on its own. The previous decking that was supplied there is, and I don't know, Mary Ellen may be able to tell me, but I think that would be around that same number of 25 years that it's been down.
Yes, it's we're looking at about 23 years. It's been down.
So
I know the plaque says 2000, but it was a 3-year journey to get to the unveiling. So it's about 23 years old. Yeah. Councillor Cowell, did I miss your hand there? Are you okay? Good. You're okay. Okay. Yeah. Last call for questions. Just a few a statement I'd like to make. Deputy Mayor, I'd feel more comfortable if you took the gavel here, if you'd allow me to speak.
Absolutely, Mayor Mayhew.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I will first ask if there are any other questions or comments, and then I'll get back to you, Mayor Mayhew. Seeing no hands, Mayor Mayhew. Oh,
yeah, thank you very much.
Councillor McGill, we'll take you after Mayor Mayhew. Go ahead, Mayor Mayhew.
Yeah, you know, Greg alluded to it, but I don't think we want to find ourselves in a situation where this is taped off and not allowing us access to the station. And I'll go through this very quickly. The word deck, I mentioned that is somewhat simplistic. This is an extremely complex structure. It's intricately shaped, covers 3/4 of it, and the work that is required here goes beyond replacement and repair. There's 2 areas that perhaps weren't here 23 years ago. One, the building codes have changed. There's a higher litigation mindset these particular times. And of course, the AODA, which I sit on that committee, we are mandated to do this, and they take this very, very seriously. And I can assure you that as a committee member, we turn down plans regularly that don't meet AODA approval as a committee. So, we have been given assurances from the drawings that they will. Drainage, we know, is an issue. That sump pump never shuts off. I'm in that basement quite regularly, doing chores for my wife through the Horticultural Society, and that sump pump runs continually. It pumps, it shuts off, it comes on perhaps in another 45 seconds, and it never stops. We've enjoyed that station for 25 years, a quarter of a century, and it is time to put some money in it. I know it's sticker shock, and I can appreciate the public's concern on this, but as Greg indicated, that without all the knowledge of the project, sometimes opinions may not be accurate. And this is the most photographed building in Southwest Middlesex. It's part of our identity. And there will be questions in regards to the price, and I completely understand that. But I remind you that the Rotary Club at the time raised $380,000 for that station. We bought that station for $1, but we spent $380,000 on that station to make it the way it was. And we raised that I was pleased to be chairman of that. And that was a long time ago. $380,000 was a lot of money. It served us well. And I would hate to lose. It's sometimes affectionately known as the jewel in the crown, that station. And I think I would like to, I know that staff have had serious thought on this and concerns too. But I might also add in this conversation that Kristen has looked at the reserves, and this will not have immediate consequences on the tax rate. We will have to address it in 2023 to see where we can get those reserves back, but we appreciate her input on that report as well. Kristen, have you anything to add to that, or am I correct in saying that there is no immediate impact on taxation?
No, you are correct. We'd have to borrow from reserves and then replenish them again next year.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that, taking that gavel.
Welcome, Mayor Mayhew.
Councillor McGill, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My question this time is about time frame, anticipated length of construction time, and also the expected start date.
I don't know the expected start date at this particular point. That certainly, will come out if council moves forward with this project. Then my next step is certainly to get the successful construction company together, all of the important people, and develop a plan moving forward. That plan will be based on the existing use of the building, the type of window that we need to get the work done. And I would think we're probably looking at anywhere from a month to 2 months work here. But it will depend on some of the stuff that we order and those particular pre-con meetings that we have with regards to how this project will unfold. So don't really want to close the building down and cause chaos in the community here. So it will be important that that we know that particular time frame that we need, and then try to work that into a void here so that we can get this project done. So we're probably looking more at a project that would occur in the fall rather than right in the middle of the summer here. So I don't know all the answers to the questions, but certainly I'm committed to make sure that the work gets done, but gets done in least effect on everybody as possible.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions? One, yes, Deputy Mayor, last question.
It's just more of a comment, Mayor Mayhew. This project was a perfect example of a community that came together. The volunteers, the donations, I think Allen Heating donated the furnace and installed it in central air. I think Stuart Simpson donated and maybe paid for the installation of the first roof. And I could go on and on and on. And that would include the volunteers that did hours and hours and months of work restoring that building. Over the years, as far as I can remember, all we've ever done to that deck is just replace boards. That's all that's ever been done to it. And I'm sure, Greg, when you took this on, you felt that that's all that was going to be needed this time as well. And you were probably pretty shocked, as I'm sure all of us are too. But when you consider what we have actually put back into it in 23 years, well, it's not surprising to me. We have to, first and foremost, we have to keep our community and anyone who visits our community safe. And I would hate to see that this didn't go forward. I'm not happy. I'm shocked, as everyone else is, with the price of it. But considering just how prices have gone up in the last year and a half, I guess none of us should be totally surprised. So that's just a comment I have, Mayor Mayhew.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just would like to add to that, the lady in Crothers donated the labor on the foundation for that entire train station as well. So I remember I kept asking Ian for an invoice, and he finally just shrugged his shoulders one day and said, don't worry about it. So the lady in Crothers donated that foundation. Anyway, council, What last question, Martin Vink? Go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a comment. I will be voting no. We don't seem to have money for a tar chip in Moses Estates. We don't seem to have money for paved streets in Melbourne and Middlemouth. But yet we have 6.2 million for the arena, 800,000 for the daycare center, like 352,000 for street lights, and now another 247,000. I'd like to see the money spread throughout Southwest Middlesex in a lot different way. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to request a recorded vote, please.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for your question, your statement, Martin. And I'm going to sit down with Kristen one day, and we're certainly going to see how the money is in Ward 1 and 3. And we certainly, it is on our radar, bigger projects for those wards too. Okay, Jill, I'll hand it over to you. I need a motion. Before we can have a recorded vote, I need a mover and a seconder for this. So council, what is your wish? Is there a mover? Moved by the deputy mayor, thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Bartlett, thank you. Jill, at your leisure, I'll let you take the vote.
Okay, so the request came from Councillor Schuldeis, so we will start with Councillor Schuldeis.
No.
Point of order. I was kicked out of the meeting and I don't know what the motion is.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cal. We weren't aware of that, so we can catch up here. Jill, could you advise Councillor Cal of what the motion was?
Sure. The motion that was moved and seconded is the recommendation from staff in the report.
Okay, and we are just to clarify it too, Jill. Was there agreement that we would go the lower of the two estimates with the only the handrails that are absolutely mandatory? Is that's correct? Eh? That there was the two prices, and the lower price was just the lowest one that meets the minimum OED requirements. Yeah, as long as we're getting that. Yeah, there was two prices there, Councillor Cal, and both meet the Accessibility Act, and we chose to go with the hand railings on the ramp and the stairway, as opposed to all the way around the deck that would, fence off the station. So we would keep its ambience from the curb, and yet it was still totally comply with accessibility and save us money. Question, Councillor Cal? Is that not clear?
Yeah, actually it's not clear because it says in the recommendation that we spend the $244,000. And if we moved the recommendation, then that is with the handrails, because the 222,000 is my understanding was without the handrails.
No, that's incorrect. The $222,000 is with handrails on the stairs, the ramp at the back, and it was perhaps could have been articulated better. Greg apologized for that. Greg, I'll speak on your behalf, but and certainly cut in if you wish. But no, the $222,000 meets the Accessibility Act completely, and there'll be handrails going up to the station on the front stairways, and there'll be handrails going on the ramp at the back. What's not in that is a handrail.
I understand that.
Okay.
But I understand what it is included, and I understand the ADOA requirements. What I'm saying is that is not what the recommendation sets, and it's my understanding that the recommendation was moved.
Okay, and it was clarified with Greg did clarify that. Jill, if you want to adjust the language in that to accommodate Councillor Cal, it was understood by council that if you look at the tender, the tender information says it does, the plans will meet the accessibility requirements. Either plan, but I can see your concern, and our operations manager apologized for that. It was just semantics that got left out. Greg, do you want to add to this at all, or?
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, that we did have this discussion while Councillor Kyle was out. So it should read that I go back to it should really be 222 in the recommendation, 635.
Yep.
And that is with handrails, but only in the appropriate AODA areas.
Yeah, yes.
And but the full budget picture itself is, if you look at the low bid with, I've got a low bid with handrails is 222. So that 222, 635 should be inserted into the recommendation where it says 244, 365.
Yes.
That's what I apologized for earlier.
Okay. Good. I hope that
clarifies. The rest of the numbers are correct.
Yeah. I hope that clarifies it, Councillor Kyle. And if it doesn't, we'll walk you through it. Okay, you're okay? All right. Jill, any concerns, or at your leisure, call the vote. And we're starting with Councillor Scholdice.
Yeah, okay, no.
Deputy Mayor Wilkins.
You're muted, Deputy Mayor.
I apologize. Yes.
Mayor Mayhew,
Yes.
Councillor McGill,
Yes.
Councillor Choi,
Yes.
Councillor Powell,
Yeah, did you get that? Okay. Yeah.
No.
and we have Councillor Vink
No.
and Councillor Bartlett,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Council. That was a wholesome discussion. We're on to number 9, Council. Notice of motion. Are there any? Council, I would like to advise you verbally of a notice of motion that I'll have presented at the next meeting for your discussion, that an addition on the agenda items be included, and I will formulate the language on that over the course of the next week, that it be added to the agenda, a segment of inquiries from council, and I'll expand on that at the next meeting. And I'll put forth that notice of motion to you now, and that will be put before council at the I think it's June 8th or something like that. That meeting, yeah, June 8th. Okay. Correspondence and petitions is kind of interesting. I'm going to let Jill lead you off on this. It's again regarding our schools in rural Ontario, and Jill can walk us through this.
Actually, Deputy Mayor Wilkins sits on the Community Schools Alliance, so she probably is in the best position to speak to this, if that's all right with you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You can lead us off, and this certainly came before county, and we endorsed it. So
Sure,
go ahead.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Jill, for that. Council, I would like to request your support of the proposed resolution sent out by our former mayor, Doug Raycraft, on behalf of the Community School Alliances. I'm sure you all know that Doug is also the chair of the Community School Alliances. This is an issue that hits close to home for all of us here in Southwest Middlesex. And the timing of this is important as we're in the midst of a provincial election, which will likely set the stage for what will happen with rural and northern schools in the future. Council, I'm sure that the background paper that was included in the agenda, you all had a look at that. And as the link was attached with the information about the study that was undertaken by the Community School Alliances exploring the social and economic impacts of schools in small Ontario communities. The links between strong communities and local schools are compelling. And I would like to move the resolution, and I would appreciate your support on this as well. Thank you, Mayor Mayhew.
Thank you. Okay. And Councillor Kell, you'll second that? Councillor Kell, you'll second that? Correct. Okay. Thank you. All right. Discussion. Yes. Question, Councillor Kell? I saw your hand up. Okay. Yes, Council, just to before.
I think it's my laggy internet.
Oh, yeah, no problem. We all have technical issues at time, Krista. As long as you're with us, stick with us. The report that came out from the University of Western Ontario on the importance of schools was, I think, a fundamental report in supporting the importance of rural schools. It had the statistics, the demographics, the financial indicators of the benefit of rural schools. And it certainly will, I hope, be a document that is seriously studied by the boards. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in support of the recommendation to endorse this? All opposed? Carried. Okay, unfinished business. Jill, I'll just look at you. We're okay there? Nothing on our plate that's not finished. Number 12. There are no items from the consent agenda. Number 13, I'll take a pause and look up for your hands, Council. I don't want to miss any. County Council update has been circulated. Announcements, are there any? Yes, Mike, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'd just like to thank everybody that made it out to Wardsville on Saturday to my great nephew Basher's drive-by birthday celebration. And in particular, I'd like to thank Mayor Mayhew and Councillor Vink for representing council at it and their spouses as well.
Great. Thank you, Mike. There was a lot of love in the air in Wardsville, I'll tell you. There sure was. And I want to thank the fire departments of Wardsville, Glencoe, and I'll mention Newberry as well. They certainly provided much entertainment for Sebastian. Yes, Mark, go ahead.
Yes, the Glencoe Presbyterian Church drive-through pork barbecue is June 4th, and tomorrow is the deadline for tickets. So if anybody would like more tickets, let me know by tomorrow.
Okay. Just before we leave announcements, Council, the Saturday at noon hour, we all witnessed I would say, an extreme weather event, a very unusual weather event. And that was quite a wind we had. The power went off around noon on Saturday and came off 6 p.m. Sunday early evening. And so we were down 30 hours. There was significant tree damage in the area, some building damage. But I want to thank staff, administration, our operations manager, our road department, and our parks and recreation that were kept very busy as well. Though we were not in a state of emergency, as a result of a power outage only, with the ambient temperatures we have, it was not that was not an issue. But it was a great inconvenience for some. There's no question. I'm not making light of that, but I can assure you that the communications went on for 30 hours during that time period. It night and day through conversations, emails, text messages, exchange of photographs. The communications were exceptional. And I want to thank Greg and Jill for that. And we live in a very strange climatic area in Southwest Middlesex. it seems that, but that was a very long storm and had far-reaching effects, and it was quite an experience, and I just felt it should be announced. Closed session, the recommendation is to go into closed session at this point. May I have a motion that we go into closed session at 9:06? Would someone move that, please? Martin, thank you very much. Councillor Vink, seconded. Councillor Choi, all in favor? Carried.
If you'll hold up for just a moment, I'll stop.